Aloha, I'm Dr. Fisher, and today I'm going to be talking to you about narrative writing. That means story writing. So when you write a narrative, it's going to be either imagined or real, and all stories have a beginning, middle, end. So you'll be first writing your beginning, then you'll write your middle, and then you'll write your end. One of the easy ways to write to make sure that you have everything in your story that you need is to think about the 5 W's. Who, what, when, where, why. So in your beginning, if you say who the narrator is, that's the person telling the story, what event or experience is coming up that you're thinking about that you have to do, where is the location and scene where the story takes place, so maybe at school, and when the time period is, and you also will be asked possibly by your teacher throughout the school years to put in informational text and details. When you have to put in informational text, I really want you to not think of it as something that is scary to do because you don't understand how to do it or why to do it, because I'm going to explain that to you now so that you'll forever remember. When you're thinking about a story that your teacher has read to you or that you have read yourself, you know that the story is going to be about something, someone, and take place somewhere. What authors have to do if they're writing about something is get background information so that they're accurate when they're telling the story. So if I wanted to tell a story about mountain climbing, for example, I would want to know what the cleats are called and how exactly you mountain climb and where places people mountain climb and what are the different grips that they call everything. I didn't really have to do a lot of studying to understand mountain climbing because I don't have any background information on that. For you, your teacher's going to help you out. Whatever they're asking you to write about, they're going to give you some background information in some sources. So they'll give you like 3 sources that you get to read first. That'll give you that background that you need to understand how to write that story for that particular subject or time. So time-wise, if I was writing about a Western, right, and I couldn't write about the people on the gold rush, right? That they're going to go on the gold rush and then start talking about they called on their cell phone or they called on any telephone or that they got in their car and they were driving, because none of those items existed back then. The same way if I was talking about somebody who was in space, I don't know anything about being in space. So I would need to do some research to understand maybe how they eat, how they get dressed, how they hold on to things, how they communicate, where they go to the bathroom, how they go to the bathroom. I mean, all sorts of different things that I would have to learn if I'm writing my story and I want it to be accurate. Why is it important for it to be accurate is if you were reading any story and all of a sudden it didn't make sense from what you know about what they're writing about. Like if somebody was writing about Hawaii, and you know a lot about Hawaii, and if all of a sudden they were interjecting something that you know doesn't even exist here, right? That they were at, that they went to the amusement park and it had roller coasters, you'd be like, wait, what amusement park were you at in Hawaii that had roller coasters, right? So you would think, I'm going to close this book, I'm not going to read it because they don't know what they're talking about. The same way, your teacher's going to help you by giving you informational text so that you understand what you're writing about and that you're accurate, that you're correct when you're writing about it. All right, and that's what integrating, that's a big word, but it just means putting in informational text details into your story to make sure that your story is correct, right? So, and then the why. So the who, what, where, when, and the why is we want to have a problem, and why is it a problem? And then the how do we feel about that? So we do that for our beginning, and we do that again in the middle, again where we have the who, what, when, where, why, and how, but our narrator. The second part, the middle of our story, is usually the big event. The first event, we're preparing for the event that's going to happen. We might be nervous about the event that's coming up, or we doubt our ability to do something, and so we're setting that scene for our reader to care about us. And then in this one, now we have the event. So now the event is taking place, and again, maybe something has to happen that goes wrong so that we can then overcome that problem, and our audience is then interested and it's interesting to them. So the battle that we have might be within ourselves, where we're just too nervous to do something, or we doubt our ability to do something, or it could actually be a problem external, we call that, with somebody else, where maybe somebody's laughing at us or making fun of us, something like that, that we need to overcome, or we fell down and literally got hurt and we need to overcome that. And then how do we overcome that problem? For the ending of our story, now the main event has ended, and now we're reflecting back. I love this part because to me, this is something that we all do every day anyway. As we're laying in bed, we reflect back on the day and what happened. And we usually will feel a certain way. Do we feel proud of what happened today? Are we happy? And do we feel that now we are brave and strong and we can do more than we thought we could do? So that's the beginning, middle, end. But let me show you a fun way to create your own graphic organizer for this. So when you're given just a piece of paper, you can take your piece of paper and then you fold it like this so that the three edges all line up. So you have 1, 2, 3. Then you, so I folded it like that. There we go. So now my paper has 3 columns, and I just put beginning, we also call that an opening, middle, which is also sometimes referred to as our elaboration, and our end, which is also sometimes referred to as our conclusion. And then I just put the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, why on it. So who, what, when, where, why. And remember that why for us is we have a problem, why is it a problem? And then how do you feel? And that informational text. And we do that for the beginning, the middle, and the end. So all of the columns just say the exact same thing, the who, what, when, where, why. And then we are going to take this and just type it into a paper so that it makes a lot of sense. And it's just what I call our bare bones narrative. Okay, so this is what it would look like, your bare bones essay. So you have your prompt, and you would study your prompt and do your talk and make sure you know the topic, the audience, the keywords of everything you needed to put in there. You have your outline, and then you type it in your outline into paragraphs that sound something like this. So the prompt is asking you, you are a 4th grade student who is going to give a presentation in front of the whole student body on Aloha, and you've been selected and you're nervous about that. So you're going to first think about it in this courtyard. You are going to do it in the auditorium, this speech, give the speech in the auditorium, then you're going to be at home thinking about it. So it is my 4th grade year at Hanakai Elementary School on the island of Oahu in Hawaii. I'm a good student, an athlete, and a good friend. One important person in my life is my social studies teacher, Mrs. Wright. She's a local lady who knows a lot about Hawaiian culture. Yesterday in class, Mrs. Wright selected me to give a presentation on what aloha means. She told me that I embody aloha and can inspire others. Today, as I sit in my school courtyard before the morning bell, I nervously think about tomorrow's presentation. I am not sure Mrs. Wright picked the right person. On the day of my aloha speech, I wake up early and my mom and dad drive me to school because they too are invited to watch my speech. At school, my social studies teacher, Mrs. Wright, walks me to the cafetorium where I am giving my presentation. Students and teachers start walking in and begin sitting on the benches. I am called up on stage. I look out at the audience and see students whispering. I begin my speech, but I feel nervous. Then I overcome my fear and give my speech. That night after the assembly, I sit at my desk and think about my speech. I can hear my parents talking in the other room. They are saying how proud they are of me. I wonder if my speech made an impact, but even if it did not change others, it changed me. I learned that I am stronger than I thought I was, and that I can do anything that I put my mind to doing. So now that's your bare bones, beginning, middle, end story. We have a problem, we're nervous about giving a presentation, then we have to give our presentation, we overcome our fear, and then we think back to that event. So now the second step is to add our figurative language. So we're going to add alliteration. So now we're going to say you're a studious, strong, and supportive student. That S sound, that repetition of S. We're going to add another repetition where we're going to say, I was not sure that I was the right person to give the speech. So it's a little doubt that we're going to repeat that again. I was not sure that I was the right person to give the speech. And we're going to have a simile here where my nerves feel like vines curling up the banyan tree. I was not sure I was the right person to give the speech. So that's all while you're sitting there in the courtyard. During the event, you're going to again use literary devices, and this time you're going to make personification. So as you're going up on stage, I was called up on stage. The wooden boards beneath my feet groan when I walk on them. The microphone looks at me laughing. I look out at the audience. A sea of eyes stare at me. Some students are whispering. Their murmurs cut like a knife. And now we have lots of problems with all of that, right? That's all showing the problems of our nerves, and we're up there. And here we're going to add, I remember why I was chosen. I took a deep breath, planting my feet firmly on stage. So this is, and I let my voice grow stronger. I was not sure that I was the right person. So we repeated that one more time. And then now when we're at home, when you're listening to your parents' voices, their voices warm and full of pride. So that's personification. Even if it didn't impact others, it changed me. I was the right person to give the speech. So here we said, not the right person, not the right person. And at the very end, we say, I was the right person. Now we add some dialogue. In the first dialogue, so for the opening scene, the first dialogue could just be what you're thinking. And you're thinking, why me? I think, staring down at my crumpled speech. There are so many other students who could do this better. What if I mess up? What if I freeze? What if everyone laughs at me? I sigh, shaking my head. And now in the middle part, we're going to do the same thing in the middle part, but this time we're going to talk between two people. We're going to have dialogue. You're going to do great, sweetheart, my mom says, because remember they're driving in the car. You have nothing to worry about, my dad adds. I shake my head, but what if I forget my words? What if no one listens? If someone isn't paying attention, that's their loss, Mom says, smiling at me. At school, my social studies teacher, Mrs. Wright, is waiting for me near the cafetorium entrance. She smiles warmly. You ready? Not really, I admit. You'll be fine, she says. Just remember, aloha isn't just a word, it's a way of life. Speak about what it means to you and they'll listen. I nod, trying to let her words sink in as I step inside. And then we have all these literary devices when you're up on stage, but then you're going to talk to yourself. Okay, don't panic, I tell myself. Breathe. Just get through the first sentence. If I get through the first sentence, I'll be okay. And now that's all the dialogue that we were putting in the middle. Now for the ending, remember we heard our parents talking in the other room, and we heard them saying, I'm telling you, she did an amazing job, my mom says. I know, my dad replies. You could see the moment when everything clicked. It was like watching confidence build right in front of our eyes. So we just added some dialogue to this, and now our narrative has grown into a pretty well-written story. We just now need to add some of those descriptive details. So instead of having to try to find an adjective for every noun and an adverb for every verb, which is one way to do that, another way is just to interject scenes. For each scene, use your 5 senses to describe what's happening in that scene. For example, so here in the beginning, we're just going to interject this one scene. The morning air is cool, but my face feels hot. The smell of fresh cut grass is in the air. Nearby, students laugh and talk. Their voices sound like a buzzing hive. The wooden picnic bench feels rough under my legs. I grip my speech notes tightly. My stomach aches and my heartbeat thumps fast and strong. So we're just describing that whole scene. And then we're now in the car with Mom and Dad. We're going to describe that scene. The ride feels much longer than usual. The smell of my dad's coffee fills the car, mixing with the sweet scent of my mom's plumeria perfume. The radio plays softly, but I hardly notice the music. I fidget with the edges of my speech notes, wrinkling the paper in my hands. My stomach hurts, like I might be sick. And then once we're in the cafeteria, right, the cafetorium is noisy as students find their seats on the long wooden benches. The air smells like sticky syrup from breakfast and the metal of the microphone on the stage. The bright lights make the room feel even bigger. And then, now you're at home. I smile to myself, feeling the worries of the day fade away. My room feels calm and quiet, like a cozy blanket after the loud assembly. Outside my window, the trees gently rustle in the breeze, making me feel at peace. I still hold my crumpled speech notes, but I know I don't need them anymore. So those were the only scenes we added. So we didn't have to go through every single, we didn't have to add every adjective and adverb in order to make it sound even better. We just added those. So now that we've added our sensory language and details, now we just add our transitions or highlight them. So we add yesterday in class, today as I sit in the school, the next morning on the day of my Aloha speech, when we arrive at school. So we're just putting those transitions for timing, right, inside the cafetorium. Then that night after the assembly, and once we have added those, we now want to make sure we put in the informational text that we read. So if we read about, maybe this one was going to talk about what Aloha means, and we could add a couple of things, more things about what Aloha means, or maybe we read articles about how students are nervous when they get up in front of people and they need to breathe, and that's why we have the part about breathing. But you really want to now just double check that if you need to put in the informational text, that you have put those in where they make the most sense. But now you have a complete essay that has all of the elements that you needed to have in it, and the last thing you do is just edit it. And you do that by quietly reading it to yourself from beginning to end. Make sure that it makes sense and that each sentence is a complete thought. Remember, when you're punctuating dialogue, that each time the speaker changes, the line changes, and you indent. That what the person says, you put in quotes and put the comma inside, and then you have that tagline. My mom says. I shake my head. Oops, comma. But what if I forget my words? What if now see, I needed to put a comma because that's the tagline was in the front there. And inside the quotes, we always start that with a capital letter, unless it is a continuation after a tagline. All right, line changes, line changes. Now, if I wanted to show if it's a continued sentence, but here this is a period and then it starts again. But if it had said if, then you would have done it lowercase. Okay, so that is how you will write your essay if you want. I mean, that's just one suggestion that my students made that they thought that would be helpful for you. Remember that this is a powerful tool right here for you to create your own template, and with your who, what, when, where, why, remember to put in your literary devices, your dialogue, create your paragraphs, add figurative language, add dialogue, add sensory details, add those transitions, edit and revise, and you, my dear, will have an amazing narrative. Have a great day. Thanks for joining me.